Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Mano Vacho Dhrika Karane Tasya.
Mano Vacho Drik Karane Hitasya.
Sakshat Kritam Me Paribarhanam Hi.
Sakshat Kritam Me Paribarhanam Hi.
Vina Puman Yena Mahavimohat.
Vina Puman Yena Mahavimohat.
Kritanta Pashan Na Vimuktam Ishe.
Kritanta Pashan Na Vimuktam Ishet. Read, Prabhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace from the Prabhupada. Translation. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, the living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamaraja's stringent rope. Purport. As stated in the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tad Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. This is the conclusion of Bhakti. All the time Lord Rishabhadeva has been stressing devotional service. Now he is concluding by saying that all senses should be engaged in the Lord's service. There are 5 senses by which we gather knowledge and 5 senses with which we work. These 10 senses in the mind should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. Without engaging them this way, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. Hare Krishna.
Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. As we have seen the example of Maharaj Ambarish again and again, he engaged all his 9, he engaged in the 9 processes of bhakti. Now we have to understand one thing. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna is saying in the 6th chapter that mind is the best friend, is a living entity's best friend, and mind is his worst enemy. See, if in the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam. So whatever state of being you remember at the time of death. Tam tam evaiti konteyas tada tad bhava bhavita. See, in reality, what is spiritual, what is material? That we have to think. Spiritual or material is just a perspective. In reality, there is no distinction between spiritual or material. It's the same when Krishna appears in this world, either as Krishna or Ram or any other form, or mean or fish incarnation or boar incarnation. He is indistinguishable. No one cannot really understand he's the Lord. When Krishna appeared in this world, a vast majority, in fact, practically all the people in this world mistook him to be an ordinary man. Even the great demigods like Brahma and Indra, even they were mistaken. Why does that happen? Because the Lord's appearance, Lord is not flying in the sky. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 8th canto, when Gajendra is praying to the Lord, he says the same thing. That sometimes you appear in this world in a human form. That means the Lord appears almost like an ordinary human being. Only the great sages can understand. Mahaprabhu says that when the Lord appears in this world, only the great sages can understand by symptoms that he is the Lord. Ordinary people cannot. So it means, but that doesn't mean that the Lord has become ordinary or that the Lord is like us. What it actually means is that we have no vision to understand the distinction between spiritual and material. The state of consciousness behind the activity is what decides whether the activity is spiritual or material. So if you want to become pure devotee, you just have to change your consciousness. All the activities must be dedicated to Krishna. It doesn't mean that we do something and we just offer it hodgepodge to Krishna. No, what it means is that the very objective of our activities should be attainment of Krishna, should be pleasing of Krishna. That's why. So how can that be done very easy? So this verse practically repeats what Krishna has said in the 18th chapter, 64th verse. Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji maam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi satyam te pratyajane priyosi me. Man mana bhav mad bhakto. So always think of me, become my devotee. Bhava mat bhakta, become my devotee. Offer your obeisances unto me and worship me. In this way, you will come to me because you are very dear to me. Meaning, you engage your consciousness 24 hours in me. Mahaprabhu says the same thing. Grahe rahi Krishna naam nirantar laiva. Constantly think of Krishna. So if you engage all your senses in the service of Krishna all the time, then you are automatically transferred to pure spiritual consciousness. So this doesn't mean that we invent some activities and we then work on them, but it means that we act under the guidance of a spiritual master and on the basis of scriptures, and then we act. In that way, we'll purify ourselves. So the program that, for example, Srila Prabhupada has given, chanting of 16 rounds, reading books, preaching, that will practically engage us all the time. So in the times of Srila Prabhupada, even the Grasthas, they were working mainly 4 to 5 hours a day, and they were engaging fully in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, there was no distinction. So it's very easy. Anyone can become a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada explains, it takes just one moment to become a devotee. You just have to think. You just have to understand that your life is only meant for service of Krishna. If you act in that way, if you change the objective of your life, it's very easy to become a pure devotee. Without engaging them in this way, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. So Krishnera bahir mukhaya bhogavacha kare, nikatestha Maya tara japatiya dhare. Krishna and Maya are not separated. They are together all the time. Srila Prabhupada explains that the backside of the Lord is Maya. Maya is Krishna's shadow. So if we are not looking at Krishna, whatever we are looking at is Maya. So if we just turn our face towards Krishna, then Maya will dissipate. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Then we continue. Text 28. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Evam Anushasyat Majan Swayam Anushishtan Api Lokanusanartham.
Evam Anushasya Atam Jayan Swayam Anushishtanaphi Lokanushasnartham.
Mahanubhava Parama Sukrida Bhagavan Rishapadesha Upashama.
Mahanubhava Param Suhrit Bhagwan Rishabdeva Rishabdesha Upashama.
शीलानाम उपरत कर्मणाम महामुनीनाम भक्ति ज्ञान वैराग्य.
शीलानाम उपरत कर्मणाम महामुनीनाम भक्ति ज्ञान वैराग्य.
लक्षणम पारमहंस्य धर्मम उपशिक्षमाण स्वतनय शत.
लक्षणम पारमहंस्य धर्मम उपशिक्षमाणं स्वतं श्रेष्ठम्.
ज्येष्ठम परम भागवतम भगवज्जन पारायणम भरतम.
ज्येष्ठं परम भागवतं भगवजन पुराणं भरतम्.
धरणी पालनायाभिषिच्य स्वयं भवन एवो वरित शरीर मात्र.
धरणी पालनायाभिषिच्य स्वयं भवन एवो वरित शरीर मात्र.
परिग्रह उन्मत्त इव गगन परिधान परिकीर्ण केश आत्मन्य आरोपिता हवन्यो ब्रह्मावर्तत परिव्रज.
परिग्रह उन्मत्त इव गगन परिधान प्रकीर्ण केश आत्मन्य आरोपिता हवन्यो ब्रह्मावर्तत प्रव्रज.
Yes. Yes, would someone like to read?
Hare Krishna, may I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Translation. Shukadev Goswami said, "Thus the great well-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Lord Rishabdev, instructed his own sons. Although they were perfectly educated and cultured, he instructed them just to set an example of how a father should instruct his sons before retiring from family life. Sannyasis, who are no longer bound by fruitive activity and who have taken to devotional service after all their material desires have been vanquished, also learn by these instructions. Lord Rishabdev instructed his 100 sons, of whom the eldest, Bharat, was a very advanced devotee and a follower of Vaishnavas. In order to rule the whole world, the Lord enthroned his eldest son on the royal seat. Thereafter, although still at home, Lord Rishabdev lived like a madman, naked and with disheveled hair. Then the Lord took the sacrificial fire within himself and he left Brahmavarta to tour the whole world. Purpose. Actually, the instructions given to Lord Rishabdev's sons were not exactly meant for his sons because they were already educated and highly advanced in knowledge. Rather, these instructions were meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Sannyasis must abide by Lord Rishabdev's instructions while on the path of devotional service. Lord Rishabdev retired from family life and lived like a naked madman, even while still with his family. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam must be understood at various levels. The purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam are not ordinary. Srila Prabhupada has condensed all the wisdom of the scriptures here. And actually, you don't really need to, go through so many scriptures and try to find this or that, try to find what is in Padma Purana, what is in Garuda Purana, Vishnu Purana. You don't need to do any of that. Srila Prabhupada's purports are compact and precise. They're precisely meant to deliver us from this material world. Now here, Maharaj Rishabdev, he's an incarnation of the Supreme Person. And his sons, of course, his sons are not conceived in some lust or anything. So definitely they are all great souls. So Maharaj Rishabdev's sons were already well qualified, as we can understand from here. They come from such a great lineage. These instructions, just like Lord Krishna's instructions on the battlefield of Mahabharata, they are meant for the general populace. So these instructions are also meant for the general populace. And this one in particular is meant for those who want to become advanced in bhakti. Not just sannyasis, anybody, brahmachari or even grahastha. And it's very simple to understand. All along in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have studied, and Bhagavad Gita also, that you are not this body. If you are not this body, then anything that belongs to this body is also not yours. In fact, one of the instructions that we saw in the 5th verse or something, it was that, Janasya mohayam aham mameti. I think it was the 5th verse where Maharaj Rishabdev had instructed like that. This was okay. This chapter only, I'll just find out the verse. Where Maharaj Rishabdev is instructing, Pumshama striya mithuni bhavametam. Tayor mitho hridaya granthim. Yeah, text 8. Yeah. So, Ato graha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohayam aham mameti. So here, Maharaj Rishabdev is explaining what is already explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So where Lord Krishna is explaining in the 3rd chapter, when Arjuna asks, by what force is one impelled to act sinfully, even against one's own wishes? So Krishna is explaining that it is lust only, which is the all-devouring enemy of the soul. So lust is the all-devouring enemy. So that lust manifests in so many ways. So in this particular text, Lord Rishabdev has explained entirely how lust manifests. So Pumshama striya mithuni bhavametam, it starts from male-female attraction, and then it leads to the formation of a hard knot. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport also in this 8th verse that the so-called society, family, society, nation, all these are just manifestations of this Pumshama striya mithuni bhava. I am German, I'm English, I am Indian, I'm American. All these are just different, manifestations of the same lusty thought. Ato graha kshetra sutapta vittair So graha, home, land, suta, sons, apta, relatives, vittaya, business, janasya moha. So this leads to formation of society and so many other illusions. Illusion of the living entity. So many grades. Janasya moha. Yam aham mameti, I and mine. So this I and mine, it comes from lust only. So if one wants to advance in bhakti, now just try to connect the verses together, these two verses. If one wants to advance in bhakti, one has to logically think that even as a grahastha, one has to give up this thought. Actually, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, they are not really different stages. It's not that there are different processes for all four of them. The process is one, the external forms are different. The process is only one. It's very simple. Detached from material world, attached to Krishna. How you do that, that depends on which varna or which ashram you are in. So in essence, everyone has to give up this aham mameti mentality. If it exists, then one cannot advance in bhakti. Actually, that's the that's the benchmark for testing one's own advancement in spiritual life. How much am I attached to this concept of I and mine? If it is very strong, one has not advanced. So it's particularly if one is willing to take, like sometimes people find it fashionable to become a brahmachari or a sannyasi. That itself is an indication that one is not a brahmachari or a sannyasi. There's no, why should one want to become a brahmachari? Why should one want to become a sannyasi? One is. Brahmacharya is a state of consciousness. Sannyas is a state of consciousness. No one can tell you, okay, now you are detached. No, you know it when you're detached. Actually, if one is attached to the concept of being detached, that also is an attachment. So if one wants to become a sannyasi, then he is not a sannyasi. A sannyasi is just a sannyasi. He just leaves the world. That is sannyas. And that is that is kind of that point is highlighted by Srila Rishabdev himself here. That he roamed around like a madman. So lived like a madman, naked and with disheveled hair. What does that mean? That means he had no consideration for any externality. Not that he was asking someone to iron his dhotis or someone to take care of his business class tickets or anything. No, he was just completely detached. He didn't care that he was a former king or he had 100 sons or that he ruled the world. He just left it. So that is the stage. So it's not just sannyasis, it's applicable to everyone. If one is too concerned with how others think of him or what others will do to him or what he can gain from others or how does he look, how does he feel, then one is not really detached. The goal of spiritual life is to become completely detached from this material body, including the mind and the intelligence. If one thinks, oh, I'm such an intelligent engineer, doctor, or lawyer, or whatever, then one is attached to one's mind and intelligence. One has to give up these conceptions also. Complete surrender to Krishna. Hare Krishna. Text 29. If someone has a question, please raise your arm. I won't ask again. Jadantha Mooka Badhira Pishacho Madakavad Avadhuta Vesho
Jadanta Mukha Badhera Pisha Unmada Kavat Avadhuta Vesho
Vibhashyamanopi Jananam Grahita Mauna Vratastushnim Babhuva.
Privashmano
Mano
api jananam
Janana
grihita
Mamna
mauna
Brata
vrata vibhuva.
Apova.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Translation. After accepting the feature of Avadhuta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rishabdev passed through human society like a blind, deaf, and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Purport. The word Avadhuta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the Varnashram Dharma. However, such a person may be situated fully within himself and be satisfied with the Supreme Personality of Godhead on whom he meditates. In other words, one who has surpassed the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma is called Avadhuta. Such person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya and he lives completely separate and independent. Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Avadhuta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the Varnashram Dharma. Now, this is not to say, now there's a bit of a controversy in ISKCON also about Varnashram Dharma. Some people very strongly suggest that there should be Varnashram, and yet others say that Prabhupada did not want Varnashram. So, and if you read Prabhupada's letters and his conversations, you'll also find the same thing. At one time, Srila Prabhupada said that, in one of his last instructions, Srila Prabhupada said that Varnashram is necessary to save people from the evil effects of Kali Yuga. And yet, before that, in 1975, Srila Prabhupada said that Varnashram is totally unnecessary. Like in the West, everyone is a Varnasankar. So how could we establish Varnashram there? It doesn't work. So just the chanting of holy names. Hare Naam Eva Kevalam. So how do we understand this? Is there a contradiction at all? Or we think there is a contradiction? So actually there is no contradiction. Varnashram Dharma is necessary to stabilize the society. Passion and ignorance are running out of control if there is no Varnashram. Varnashram essentially is just a taming of passion and ignorance, if you see carefully. Shudras work to do hard labor. If Shudras are not controlled by the other three Varnas, and if they start running the society like we see today, there will be chaos. Because Shudras are purely sensual people. They have no sense of morality or ethics or anything. They just live for their bodies. And you can see that practically the whole society lives like that. And that's why the laws are also so complicated and practically unenforceable. Because the whole society is criminal. So Varnashram is necessary when the human being is in a very low state of consciousness. But the whole objective of Varnashram is to surpass Varnashram. Just like the objective of going to school is to graduate from the school, is to come out of the school, not to stay there. So the objective of Varnashram is to get out of Varnashram, to transcend Varnashram. So in the lower stages of consciousness, it is necessary, but in the higher stages, it should be given up. So Rishabdev, through his own example, he lived. He is the Supreme Lord, but he lived as a brahmachari. Then he lived as a grahastha, and now he has left everything as an avadhuta, which is which in our Gaudiya terms we can call Babaji Avesh. Living completely, like actually it's beyond Babaji Avesh. Avadhutas follow no social convention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Babuji, I have a question.
Yes. Yeah, please.
So we say in the translation, it said, Rishabdev Ji passed through the human society like a blind, deaf, dumb man, an idle stone, ghost, or a madman. So at this time, how do we understand this stage?
At this time?
Kali Yuga mein, how do we understand? Or practically, how do we understand? Does that mean they are trying to say they were completely aloof, regardless of what anyone does, what anyone says, or what anyone has? Is that what they are referring to?
Yes. If you are not this body, how does this concern you?
Yeah.
Just like 3 days ago, India and Australia were playing a match and India lost and people lost their minds and so many crazy things are going on. But did people in Canada react to that?
No.
They probably don't even know where Australia is or what is cricket. So they are indifferent. And why are they indifferent? Because they have no attachment to it. So many things are happening in this world, like so many things are happening in Hollywood or American politics or Indian politics or Western politics. But if you're not concerned, you're not concerned. You don't care. So an Avadhuta doesn't care. For him, this whole nature, like, right now, for example, if you look out of your window, there would be wind blowing and leaves fluttering. But you don't feel anything. You don't feel happy. You don't feel unhappy. You are indifferent.
Mhm.
That's the objective of spiritual life, to become indifferent to this world.
फिर प्रभु जी कंपैशन कहाँ फिट होता है कि हम किसी को देख के somebody अगर किसी सिचुएशन में we feel sad and we pray, right? So अगर indifferent हो जाए बंदा, कंपैशन कहाँ आएगा फिर?
Indifferent आप हो जाइए. Indifferent मतलब आपको जबरदस्ती, you don't have to become hard-hearted. You're not here to become, indifferent doesn't mean that you, in a sense, that you become hard-hearted and merciless. Indifferent means that you are totally unconcerned. That's a state of consciousness that you just don't even notice anymore.
Somehow it's hard to understand if say somebody is in trouble and we are indifferent, I will not be probably, if I'm so indifferent, I won't be feeling the other person's pain or probably praying to Krishna for help.
Okay, let's go very deep into this answer. How do you define somebody's trouble? Who do you think is in trouble? Can you give an example?
Sorry, everyone is in trouble. For example, I see people around me, they say they are not taking to Krishna consciousness. So that's a big problem. No? They think they are not in troublesome condition, but they are. So that is a pitiable condition. So you
what's
pray.
your solution?
I pray. I try my level best. If nothing works, then I just pray.
But Canada is a huge country. You're practically on the eastern coast. Now, what about the western coast, or say towns like Calgary? Calgary is incidentally the cow town of Canada. So what do you do about people of Calgary who are like practically living like Rakshasas? So what do you do about them?
कुछ नहीं, जिनके बारे में पता ही नहीं, nothing.
क्यों नहीं पता है आपको?
पता ही नहीं.
Because
it is.
We are not connected.
Exactly. See, the point is to become totally disconnected from everything. Compassion will come when you first see Tattva. We are Tattvadarshis. We haven't seen Tattva. We are following the instructions of the spiritual master. We understand in theory, but we cannot think of someone like, say, for example, I say a Hollywood actor, say Tom Cruise, or say Natalie Portman. I don't think that they are miserable. I am intellectually understanding they are miserable for old age, disease, and death. But when I look at them, I cannot really feel that they are miserable. So you're getting the point. When we say Panditaha Samdarshina, a pure devotee of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, he can understand that these people living in Tamogun and Rajogun are fools. I am still on that platform. I am also trying to enjoy this material world. So therefore, I still see others as competition. But someone like Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, their vision is entirely different. They are compassionate because they are Tattvadarshis. We are instruments of their compassion. We don't have any compassion. If we had compassion, then we would be Avadhutas by now.
Yes.
Because the first compassion would be towards ourselves.
Very true.
We still are attached to this concept of brother or sister, husband, wife, mother, father. That means we are not compassionate to ourselves. We are merciless to ourselves. We are still subjecting ourselves to more and more misery. So compassion comes automatically, and then you can preach. And who preaches? So see, right now our preaching is also a form of attachment. There is still some element of attachment here. I am doing this service. A pure devotee like Madhavendra Puri would not preach actually. Because see, he is Uttam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari sees everything as a part and parcel of the Supreme. He understands that this is all a game of Maya which is going on. Because he becomes a Trikaladarshi, he knows what is the destiny of every living entity also. So he gives his mercy to those who approach him. So if you read, especially if you read second chapter onwards of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, you'll find your answers there.
ठीक है जी, ठीक है गुरुदेव, थैंक यू जी। हरे कृष्णा जी।
Hare Krishna. Yes.
In fact, what Abdut has been described here
Hmm.
is a spiritual state of person.
Yes.
While in present day also I have seen some Abduts. Now this means they are different people. They only become sadhus, will put on no dress, virtually no dress,
Hmm.
and put a lot of ganja and bhang. And they live lost in their own world. And they say we are Abdus. So those are not the Abdus. They are all the duplicate Abdus or the cheaters. So what Rushabdev have been described here is a very eternal, very high level of Abdut. After this, I don't think there may be any genuine Abdut in this world. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yes. Yes, Archana Mataji, you have a question also.
Yes, Prabhuji, more or less, I think it got answered. But still, I was thinking that this sort of behavior of an Avadhut, it's quite repulsive to normal people. They can't understand this. So, isn't it that if such an advanced person, a spiritually advanced person is behaving like that, he's like isolating himself. He cannot really reach out to other and enlighten the others. Or is it like he felt he has already enlightened his sons and now they will carry forth the thing?
That's a good question, actually. So, see, when we look at the lives of personalities like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Srila Prabhupada or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we get an idea about our mission. We get an idea about our philosophy and our mood of preaching. But we should also understand that these personalities are Patita Pavan and Mahapatita Pavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as Patita Pavan. And Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji described Srila Prabhupada as Mahapatita Pavan. He said, you came to deliver those who escaped Lord Chaitanya also. They were literally like, to be honest, like if you see American devotees even now, you will be bewildered. I have spent considerable time with American devotees and it's bewildering. They are not your example of Sattvic Vaishnavas that you might think. In America, there are kirtans where boys and girls hold on to each other's shoulders and arms and dance. So to deliver such souls, you need to have a very tremendously powerful personality. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada rightly deserves the title of Mahapatit Pavan. And Americans are like thoroughly arrogant. Arrogance is in their blood. So you're getting the point. Like you need like a Senapati, like literally a Vaishnava who's like a Kshatriya, who's like Arjun, to vanquish the demonic habits of Americans. Americans are a special breed. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada was Mahapatit Pavan. But having said that, we have to understand one more thing here. Srila Prabhupada himself instructed on preaching. He said, we are not here preaching to the general masses. We are giving the most valuable knowledge. Only those who are very fortunate will take it. So Srila Prabhupada was not chasing after people. He would give a general lecture, but he would instruct only those who approached him. So, like Jada Bharat, for example. Jada Bharat was also running like this, Avadhuta. But Maharaj Rahoguna, now Maharaj Rahoguna initially thought of chastising Jada Bharat. But by the dint of his own Kshatriya capabilities, he could understand the transcendental nature of Jada Bharat and he surrendered to him. So actually, this is a good thing. Like Vansidas Babaji. Now, Vansidas Babaji is an amazing personality. Bhakti Vinod Thakur used to visit him. And Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur also. Vansidas Babaji would smoke ganja. And sometimes he would abuse people when they would come to meet him. Like filthy abuses, like truck driver kind of abuses. And people would run away, thinking that he's a fake. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur knew who he was. So, Vansidas Babaji, he was a transcendental personality. Gaur and Nitai used to live with him. But he pretended to be like a madman just to drive away the useless people. See, Srila Prabhupada himself was of the same opinion. We don't want lazies and crazies. Srila Prabhupada did not encourage, massive congregations where people just don't have any idea of philosophy. Srila Prabhupada gave the exact philosophy which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, which all the Acharya Parampara has given. There was no compromise in Srila Prabhupada's mission or his teachings. So the point here is, which I'm trying to illustrate, is they could broadcast this preaching. They were like machine guns, very powerful. If we try to broadcast those teachings generally, we would fall down. We will become attracted to Maya in different forms, in the form of Kanak, Kamini, and Pratishtha. Just the other day, I was watching one Mataji speaking on relationships in Krishna consciousness, and she was sitting on Vyasasana. So that is nonsense, really, because Vyasasana is only meant to discuss transcendental subject matter. See, relationship issues, there are so many issues. We have issues related to automobiles also, but we don't give lectures on automotive engineering on Vyasasana. So these are just minor issues. Relationships, what relationship? The body will die. So we have to, awaken people to spiritual reality. So Prabhupada was insistent that the devotees of Srila Prabhupada actually said that one should not actually take many disciples. In fact, Prabhupada said that it's best not to take any disciples. It's best to, to avoid preaching to the masses. One should speak, like Prabhupada gave a very simple idea. He said, we get a new man. You just test him for 6 months. If he is not up to Brahmanical standards within 6 months, then you just let him go. So Prabhupada was also, not like some kind of a Democrat or anything here. Prabhupada was also fairly conservative in this regard. See, so the point here is the ordinary living entities are in Maya. They are deeply in Maya. They are deeply in Maya because they want Maya. Krishna is not putting them there. So we try to awaken them. Just like, when you walk on the street, for example, in India, some auto rickshaw wala will come. Hey, madam, you want to go? And if you say no, that's it. He's not going to sit there and, beg you. Please, Mataji, come, I'll drop you home. Please don't say no. No, he'll not say that. He'll move on. He'll try to find somebody else. The market is busy. And there are other people who might be interested in his services. So while we are wasting our time chasing after people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, we may be missing out on those who are actually interested in Krishna consciousness. This world has 7 billion people. Why are we so worried about 20, 30 or 100 people? So we don't have time. And while we are preaching, we are taking time away from our own sadhana. So we should be spending our time in our own introspection, our meditation. So therefore, such a devotee as Lord Rishabdev the Lord as Rishabdev has shown us by his own example how a devotee should be. A devotee is not concerned about attracting other people's attention. Yajantihi sumedhasha. This is what Bhagavatam says. Yajna prayar sankirtana yajantihi sumedhasha. Those who are intelligent will come. Mahaprabhu sang kirtans in public. He spoke Bhagavatam with his disciples and he discussed Ras Leela with his intimate associates. So you see the point that we are not here to attract the masses. We are here to find out who's a devotee amongst the masses. We are like a public transport bus, or we are like the local train. We just come to a station, wait for 30 seconds and move on. We're not waiting for everyone. We're not a Janta party. We're not attracting everyone here. Whoever is interested, yajantihi sumedhasha. Those who are wise enough, those who want to know what is the purpose of life. We're only trying to attract those. So it doesn't matter. A genuine person will know who we are. Yes, as a preaching mission, we should maintain a certain dignity. Srila Prabhupada always dressed very nicely as a sadhu. Prabhupada said, maintain a sadhu-like appearance.
Hmm.
But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada's most intimate friends were Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji. I mean, Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji did not maintain any appearance. So when you are when you are on the platform, when you are totally unconcerned about the society, Paramatma will inspire other living entities to approach you. So then you will be getting out of this ahankar that I am attracting living entities.
Hmm.
This is a bit esoteric. It's a bit difficult to understand. But if you think carefully on it, you'll get it as clear as daylight.
Yes. Yeah, this explains it then. Okay.
So this ties up with the fact that Srila Prabhupada once told us, it is your purity which will do the preaching. Not your diction, not your knowledge. It's your purity which will be the real preaching. Because Paramatma will inspire Paramatma in another heart to come to us.
Lord Rishabdev did not preach after this. I mean, he did all this while only to his sons while he was the king.
Yes, he was right. Abhi aa gaya.
Slightly less distractions in the class, please. Yeah. So text 30 and okay. Okay. Oh no, the time is up. Okay. Sorry. Anyone has a question? Otherwise, we stop here now. Okay. We stop here. Thank you very much.
Dandot Pranam, Prabhu.
Dandot Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Like you were discussing on the core practical aspect of teaching about the time factor and everything. So we find that people are at different levels and they take their own time to take up Krishna consciousness seriously. So as you said, like 6 months is the time which Prabhupada used to wait for somebody to, like Prabhupada used to recommend. So how do we understand it in this present context? Like 6 months for what? Like to take up Krishna consciousness or to become a very nice devotee, or how do we understand that time constraint with respect to devotion?
Okay. See, purification is a lifelong process. It may be a matter of many lifetimes. We have uncountable, we have uncountable contaminations, gross and subtle. But within 6 months, we should come up to a Brahminical standard. What it means is that our consciousness should be pure enough. See, at least one should have faith in the scriptures. One should be practicing chanting, reading, preaching, kirtans. One should be practicing nicely in 6 months. And one should exhibit an understanding. Please understand, this is a Brahminical process. This is not CBSE board or GCSE boards or anything, or not some university examination where we have a paper and we classify, okay, you are A+ category and you're done. No, it's a Guru Shishya Parampara. The Guru must sense the change in consciousness of the disciple. Disciple should not be a perfunctory disciple. Okay, now I know. Okay, I have studied Bhagavad Gita. I have memorized 700 verses. Now I can speak. No, disciple's consciousness must change. He must become a pandit. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. So one must have humility. One should sense that humility in the person. Then we can understand this person is advancing. If one's becoming proud, more and more proud of his knowledge, then he's a Shudra. Such a person, the Guru should tear away his Brahminical thread and throw him out, or engage him in menial labor. So Srila Prabhupada was merciful, he didn't do that, but of course Prabhupada always pointed out what was going wrong. So within 6 months, we should see at least a degree of humility in a disciple. If the disciple is becoming more and more proud, then he's not advancing. He's actually degrading. If the disciple thinks he has become more independent, he's more powerful, more knowledgeable, then the disciple is actually going deeper into illusion. If you see the first chapter of Nectar of Devotion, you can see there Rupa Goswami. Oh, actually, also teachings of Lord Chaitanya, instructions to Rupa Goswami, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is quoting Bhakti Samrit Sindhu. It is very clearly mentioned that along with devotion, many other weeds, unwanted weeds also grow. So unnecessary pride in one's own abilities. That is also one of the most powerful weeds. So these weeds continue to grow. The Guru has to weed them out by chastising the disciple. So if the Guru sees that the disciple is unwilling to take the chastisement, or the disciple is not willing to accept any more instructions, then he can understand that the disciple has become useless. So there was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who went to Vrindavan once, and he wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. He said, my dear Prabhupada, I have found a better Guru who is giving me more knowledge. Please give your blessings. So Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you have my blessings. May you never attain Krishna. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. So the desire within the disciple's heart to please the Guru should become more and more intensified. That is the sign of advancement in devotion. In 6 months, you will see at least a little bit of symptom.
Nowadays, Prabhuji, like the preacher is so hesitant to give the pure devotional message, and there is more prejudgment that people may not understand the pure message. So, in such circumstance, how this 6 months factor will really work? Because when I read through the times of Prabhupada, devotees used to get very good, nice association. They could meet the sannyasis, they could meet the brahmacharis. They used to work together very nicely. So, present situation, we are caught up in such a tough time balancing professional and family life that some of us are not even managing even once a week a visit to temple or intimate association. We are very much satisfied with whatever little bit association we are able to get. So how can this 6 month factor really work actually? Like, how much really genuine association one will be able to get?
See, Prabhu, when a student is in the primary school, you teach him lower mathematics. When he advances to high school, you teach him higher mathematics. And when he goes to the university, he's taught advanced mathematics. So yes, certainly, like in the beginning, when someone comes to us, we're not going to talk about, different stages of Bhava Bhakti, but we're going to talk about verification. So certainly that consideration has to be there. In public, we have to maintain a certain level of philosophy because newcomers won't be able to understand. But a preacher who's afraid of speaking his heart, who's afraid of speaking the pure philosophy, is actually not a preacher, he's a cheater. He's nonsense. What is he preaching? You are a teacher of mathematics, and you know that all students are not able to grasp the advanced concepts of mathematics. But that doesn't mean that you will stop teaching. Those who can accept will accept it. Those who cannot will leave. Not everyone is qualified to accept the instructions. That's why we say Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye. So hardly 1 in 1,000 may be interested. So we are also preaching to the exclusive class. We are not here to attract people. Like I mentioned previously also. We are here to give pure knowledge to those who can take it. We preach to thousands so that 1 or 2 may actually be interested and may come up. We are broadcasting, the local train. It comes to the platform. If it is going to your destination, you take it. The driver will not come out and beg you to board, please, sir, you are on the platform, please take my train. No, he doesn't care. He's there for 30 seconds and he leaves. So that is process of preaching also. We preach to the masses, all the masses, so that someone who is looking for the absolute truth, he may approach us and then we will preach to him. So we'll give a general message. Mahaprabhu used to do that. When Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu were preaching, this is what they were doing. that he instructed them, go from house, door to door, and beg people to chant Krishna's name. Those who are fortunate will come. So that's our philosophy. So you have to give the pure message. Put it in a simplified manner, but keep the message pure. And when you see that someone is actually interested, when someone is actually, advancing, then you give him higher and higher truths. That is your discretion. That's why being a Shiksha Guru is a heavy responsibility. But you are not supposed to be afraid of people.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, then we stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandakanam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada ki
Hare
jai.
Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.